I've still not come down for it. I still feel like I'm dreaming, to be honest. You have to give me a second to
I think it's going to take a long time for Kobbie Mainoo to come down. How in the world did those United players sleep after that last night? How did Kobbie Mainoo sleep after that? Took me ages to get sleep. I want to speak about Kobbie Mainoo for the next 10 minutes because we've all been guilty of overhyping youngsters who've come through Manchester United's academy. I definitely overhyped James Wilson once. I think that was one of the worst football takes we've ever had. But Kobbie Mainoo is different. He is special. And he's not a once-in-a-generation player, but he is a player who is probably going to save Manchester United £100 million. Because the profile that he has, in my opinion, is the most sought after in the modern game. I want to explain it all in this video. And why it's not... What we're seeing now is the tip of the iceberg, but it's the culmination of the hard work that's happened over these last 2 years. He broke through into Manchester United's first team back in December 2022, and I hoped that this season would be the season where we saw Mainoo break into the first team. You remember last year, you remember this little video? That was Erik ten Hag speaking to Kobbie Mainoo after the League Cup final against Newcastle at Wembley. He went over to Kobbie Mainoo. I'd love for somebody to ask him what he spoke to Mainoo about. But Mainoo had already won the FA Youth Cup, had already broken through into the first team training, and if it wasn't for the injury, we wouldn't have had to wait this long to see Kobbie Mainoo do this. But I'll speak about all of that. But that goal in isolation, the celebration too, is such a wonderful example of how composed and mature he is. Laurie Whitwell on The Athletic had a really good turn of phrase. Serenity in the storm. How on earth he managed to keep the composure that he had to drift past two players and to just caress the ball, open his foot up, curl it into the bottom corner. That finish there got Fergie smiling. It got me smiling. It got all United fans smiling. But that finish there was just on another level and not of somebody who was 18 and scoring his first Premier League goal for Manchester United. But as I said, it's for anybody who's followed Kobbie Mainoo over the last couple of years, all you're seeing here is a continuation of everything that you saw at youth team levels. And there are certain players that you see there. Paul Popper was definitely one of them. I remember watching him specifically in that FA Youth Cup winning team again. Now, I don't sort of get on board with the Paul Popper comparisons. And people are going to do that. Kobbie Mainoo's the next this, the next that person, the next Thiago, the next Popper. No, he's the first Kobbie Mainoo. Right? But Popper stood out when he played with the youth team. And Mainoo stood out, as did Garnacho. And Garnacho has stepped up to that star level. And Kobbie Mainoo, he's just doing exactly what he was doing at youth team level. And he won the Jimmy Murphy Young Player of the Year award. And if it wasn't for that cruel injury, we would have seen this a lot earlier. I think Erik ten Hag went into this season with Kobbie Mainoo in his plans to be starting for Manchester United. That didn't happen. Ended up being Casemiro, Mount, and Bruno starting in the game against Wolves at Old Trafford, where we got overran. Should have lost. One, I think, because of a Raphael Varane header. But Kobbie Mainoo was part of those plans. Now, they've been delayed somewhat, but now we're seeing them come to fruition. And Kobbie Mainoo's in dreamland. A dream come true. My boyhood club, an away game against a tough side, and to come away with 3 points in that fashion is amazing. And Erik ten Hag can't really pile any more praise on him. What he has done is great. He's a calm person, seems to be improving from match to match, and I'll push him and support him to continue, but it has to come on his own. Fantastic ability. He can become a great player. And this comment here is what I want to focus on. Erik ten Hag saying that Kobbie Mainoo is everything that a modern midfielder needs to be. It's wonderful to see. I hope he stays calm as he did with his goal as well. He's determined. He's a good character, and I hope he keeps going with his progress. But that bit there, Mainoo is everything that a modern midfielder needs to be. And I think that's a really spot-on comment from Erik ten Hag. Because if I'm looking at major midfield signings that have happened, there's obviously plenty of them, but there's one kind of particular profile. Enzo Fernandez, of course, signed by Benfica, won the World Cup with Argentina, won the Young Player of the World Cup, goes to Chelsea for 120 mil, something like that. But somebody who is a press-resistant, deeper playmaker, who can have the ball at his feet, drift through space, who is capable of slowing it down when you need to. And you saw as well them signing Moises Caicedo, who was a little bit more combative, but still in that same profile. And I think you can put Declan Rice in that same profile as well. So that's 3 midfielders there who all have moved for north of £100 million over the last, was it not January gone, the January before, I think, that Enzo Fernandez joined Chelsea. And then Moises Caicedo joined Chelsea in the summer, and Declan Rice joined Arsenal. Now, I'm not saying that Kobbie Mainoo is at that level yet, but I'm saying that Manchester United now don't need to look for a player in that specific profile, because Kobbie Mainoo is that player. I think if he was on the open market and somebody was to sign him, I guarantee you that he'd be going for north of 100 mil. Players of that profile, in my opinion, those midfielders are the most valuable in the modern game. I think they're the hardest to find. They're the most expensive to buy when they're ready-made. And if you have scouting and you can identify them young and you have the ability to let them grow in your team, then you're going to sign a gem. Now, when we've seen Kobbie Mainoo earlier this season, people were probably more looking towards him as like a Frankie de Jong type player, somebody who can receive the ball from the defenders first, turn. He can be that first phase midfielder. And he can be. But in my opinion, I don't actually think that's the best position for him. I think the position that you saw against Wolves was the best position for him. He is somebody who it's difficult to have that level of composure when you receive the ball from your defenders, when you're getting pressed down by attackers and your backs, you're facing your goal and you've got players all around you. You have to be very smart with your decisions. But to be able to do what Kobbie Mainoo did on the edge of the opposition box in the 97th minute, when your team's 3-3 and have been winning 3-1, and to weave through those spaces, that there is not something that you want to just restrict. That talent is not something that you want to restrict into simply being a first phase midfielder. So what Manchester United need to do is get that complete first phase midfielder. I would love to say that's going to be Casemiro, but I don't think it will be. I don't know whether it's going to be somebody who's... It's either going to be somebody of Frankie de Jong's ilk or somebody like Onana from Everton. Like somebody who just eats up ground, covers space. Not necessarily going to be the greatest first phase progressor, but somebody who would complement a balanced midfield with Kobbie Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes. And he's had such a wonderful month. And as I said, just to rewind here, it was only in August when this happened. And he went off in tears because half the season has been wiped off for him. But he's come back now that fitness is there, and he's scored his first goal against Newport. And again, another perfect example of the calm nature that he has. The reason that it's so exciting to watch him is because what made Paul Scholes so good? I'm not saying he's Paul Scholes. When Paul Scholes had the ball, he already knew where the ball was going next. He was a step ahead, like all great chess players. They already know what they're going to do in 2 moves' time before you've even moved. That's the sort of player that Kobbie Mainoo is. That gives him the ability to drift into space, to drift out of space, to be press resistant. But getting his first goal against Newport, then winning Player of the Month. By the way, Man United's last 3 Player of the Month awards have been won by Garnacho, and Mainoo. Big up Carrington. So first goal against Newport, then Player of the Month, then his first Premier League goal, and it's a 97th minute winner. I hoped that this season would be the season that Kobbie Mainoo has broken through. And he's done nothing but deliver on the promise that he showed in the youth team. It's a continuation of that special ability. And in my opinion, I think you add him into the category of Enzo Fernandez or Moises Caicedo or Declan Rice, and that modern-day hybrid midfielder, somebody who is comfortable receiving the ball from deep, but also has vision and technical ability to bring the ball forward, to drive into spaces, to be a ball carrier. It's like the all-round midfielder. And I think that's the most valuable in the modern game. And I think Kobbie Mainoo, I'm just glad he's ours. I really am. As I said, I know that we've all been guilty of overhyping youngsters before, but I think I think that celebration just tells you everything. Doesn't matter what's going on around me. I'll do me. Well, you keep doing you, Kobbie, and I'll keep enjoying watching it, because whatever happens in this Ratcliffe era, this lad's going to be a big part of it. Looking forward to it.